You're making tea. The water's hot. You reach for that squeeze bottle shaped like a bear, turn it upside down, and watch golden liquid spiral into your cup. Sweet, natural, pure honey. But here's something that might surprise you. That bottle you just squeezed? There's a 76% chance it's not honey. Not real honey anyway. It's been filtered, heated, mixed with corn syrup, and stripped of everything that makes honey actually honey. And the reason it's fake? Real honey is one of the most labor-intensive foods on Earth. What bees do to make it is so complex, so precise, that humans still can't replicate it. So, how do bees actually make honey? Why is most of what we buy fake? And how can something made by insects be worth more than the effort to produce it honestly? Let's explore the process. Here's the thing about honey. It's not something bees collect. They make it. From scratch, through one of nature's most sophisticated chemical transformations. It starts with nectar. Bees use their proboscis, a straw-like tongue, to suck up nectar. It's mostly water, about 70 to 80% water. If you tried to store it like that, it would ferment within days. The nectar goes into a separate stomach called the honey stomach or crop. It holds about 40 milligrams, the weight of a grain of rice. To fill it, a bee visits 50 to 100 flowers, one trip. Now here's where it gets wild. Inside the honey stomach, enzymes break down the nectar. Invertase splits complex sugars into glucose and fructose. Glucose oxidase produces hydrogen peroxide, giving honey its antimicrobial properties. When the bee returns to the hive, it passes the nectar to a house bee, a younger bee that stays inside. Mouth to mouth. The house bee chews on it for about 30 minutes, adding more enzymes. Then it deposits a tiny droplet into a honeycomb cell, but it's still too watery, about 70% water. Honey needs to be under 18% water or it will ferment. So the bees fan it. Thousands of bees beat their wings, creating airflow that evaporates the water. A biological dehydrator. They do this for hours, sometimes days. The hive stays around 35 degrees Celsius. Too hot and enzymes break down. Too cold and evaporation slows. Bees regulate temperature by fanning cool air in summer and clustering for warmth in winter. When the honey reaches 17 to 18% water content, the bees seal the cell with a wax cap. Honey found in ancient Egyptian tombs, 3,000 years old, was still edible. But here's what that actually means in terms of scale. A single bee produces 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in her entire lifetime. That's it, 1/12. To make 1 pound of honey, bees fly about 55,000 miles collectively. That's more than twice around the Earth. They visit roughly 2 million flowers, and it takes the work of about 300 bees over their lifetimes to produce a single pound. That's why real honey is expensive. That's why shortcuts exist. Now here's the kicker. Walk into any grocery store, look at the honey aisle. Most of it isn't honey. In 2011, Food Safety News tested honey from major U.S. retailers. 76% of samples contained no pollen. 0. Pollen is the fingerprint of honey. It tells you where it came from. Without pollen, it's not traceable. And often, it's not real. How do you remove pollen? Ultrafiltration. They heat the honey and force it through extremely fine filters. This strips out pollen, enzymes, antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. What's left is sugar water with honey flavor. Why? To hide the origin. Most fake honey comes from China, where it's adulterated with corn syrup or rice syrup. Ultrafiltration erases evidence of where it came from. But wait, it gets worse. Some honey is made without bees at all. Factories blend corn syrup, sugar, water, and artificial flavoring. They add caramel color and thicken it with xanthan gum. It looks like honey. It tastes similar, but there are no flowers, no bees, no enzymes. In 2013, the U.S. Department of Justice charged 2 companies with importing $180 million worth of fake honey from China. They relabeled it to avoid tariffs and inspections. Honey laundering, that's a real thing. The economics make it irresistible. Real honey costs $4 to $7 per pound. Fake honey costs less than $1. When consumers can't tell the difference, why bother with bees? But here's the thing. You can tell the difference. Real honey crystallizes. If your honey sits in the pantry for months and stays perfectly smooth and liquid, it's probably fake. Real honey turns cloudy and solid over time. You can reliquefy it by warming it gently, but crystallization is a sign of purity. Real honey has pollen. Look at it under a microscope, and you'll see tiny grains. Ultra-filtered honey won't have any. Real honey is thicker. Put a spoonful on a plate. Real honey holds its shape. Fake honey runs like syrup. Real honey has complexity. It tastes different depending on what flowers the bees visited. Orange blossom is floral and citrusy. Buckwheat is dark and malty. Clover is mild and light. Fake honey tastes generic. If you want real honey, buy local. Go to farmers markets. Ask the beekeeper where it came from. Look for raw, unfiltered honey. It'll be cloudier, might have wax or pollen, and will crystallize. Those are good signs. So let's go back to that tea, that bear-shaped bottle in your hand. But now you know it took 300 bees their entire lives to make 1 pound of real honey. You know they visited 2 million flowers and flew 55,000 miles. You know they passed nectar mouth to mouth, fanned it for days, and sealed it with wax. You know 76% of store-bought honey has no pollen. You know factories blend corn syrup with flavoring and call it honey. You know fake honey costs $1 per pound, while real honey costs $7. The next time you buy honey, you'll check if it crystallizes. You'll look for pollen. You'll taste for complexity. You'll know whether you're eating the result of one of nature's most intricate processes or just sugar water with a label. That's the process. We reveal how things actually work, one story at a time. If there's something you'd like us to explore next, let us know. Until then, trust the process.